wonderful CFO, Chief Abinama, and Dave Abbott, who is the board chair for Cleveland Public Market Corporation. We're also joined in the audience by Ruby Thomas, who is on our tenant association board for Westside Market.
Who's that?
Ruby is.
Okay, all right, good morning.
Great. Well, we're here to talk about Ordinance 1093-2023. I have some presentation materials for you that I'll go through, and then happy to answer any questions you all have. So kind of high-level overview of what we're doing in this ordinance. It is to permit the city to enter into a lease and a management agreement with the nonprofit Cleveland Public Market Corporation. It authorizes the city to provide $200,000 to the organization as operating support for this year. It also provides the legal authority for the city and the nonprofit to access tax credits, and it adjusts some existing legislation that will allow CPMC to exercise control over the Westside Market and its parking lots. So we've talked a lot, I think, and with City Council over the past 2 years about the benefits of switching to nonprofit operation. I just want to highlight two in particular. One is by switching to nonprofit operation, we're able to access capital for a historic city asset that the city is not able to access on its own. That's through fundraising with the nonprofit, sponsorship, tax credits, which we'll get into in a bit, and from new sources of operational revenue from events and some other ways that the nonprofit can be a little bit more creative with how it is operating the market. The second, and I think equally, if not more important, real objective here is that the board and staff for Cleveland Public Market Corporation will be able to devote sort of their full-time energy to maximizing the potential of Westside Market. I think that's going to result in really amazing programs that will benefit everybody in the city of Cleveland, programs around food access, entrepreneurship, education. We get 50,000 school kids dropped off at the Westside Market every year without any real curriculum to give them. I think with having a board with committees, staff, volunteers, we'll be able to do a lot more to access or to improve the lives of Clevelanders. And then I also think it's going to result in better support for both merchants and for customers. The lease that we're talking about today, the legislation provides support to CPMC as they hire staff to manage the Westside Market. I want to emphasize that what we're talking about today is a lease of Westside Market. The city's still going to own the market and its parking lots. We're not giving away ownership of those assets. They're still going to be ours, the city of Cleveland's. The funding that we're asking for Westside Market for this year has already been allocated to the market in its budget, so I'm not asking for any new budget appropriation right now. It's money that has already been appropriated. But I also don't want to give the impression that the city is never going to be asked to support the operations of Westside Market. We've done a lot of work to put together a business plan and a master plan for Westside Market. We have a sort of path that I feel really confident about that will allow the market to be operating in a financially stable way in the, I think, near future. But in the meantime, the market in the nonprofit organization is going to require ongoing city support in the short term, but those asks are going to come to City Council on an annual basis. So there will be an opportunity to ask questions. There will be, an opportunity to discuss those requests on an annual basis. The pro forma that we have for Westside Market that I know has been shared with Council a couple times anticipates city operating support not exceeding $700,000 a year, which is on par with what the city is doing right now. So, we anticipate that going down year over year until it's zero, but we don't anticipate it exceeding what the city has already been putting into operations for the market. The city also is not getting out of the business of weighing in on how the market can and should impact our residents. So the draft terms of the agreement anticipates the nonprofit delivering specific community benefits. These are a couple, I'll just highlight a few, increasing the diversity of the tenants in the market, ensuring market vendors are involved in governments and decision-making of the market, making sure that the market has a positive impact on food access for city residents, integrating workforce development programs into the operations of the market, We expect the nonprofit to be pursuing grants and private gifts to increase operating revenue for Westside Market. And we also expect that they'll be doing programs to support small businesses and entrepreneurs and working to make sure that they're increasing sales and increasing the number of businesses at Westside Market. I'm not going to go into all of the details here, but I just wanted to show we've already put a lot of work into the sort of performance metrics that the nonprofit will be providing to the city on an annual basis. So that's things like, measuring and reporting on the number of merchants and the backgrounds of those merchants, measuring and reporting the number of customers, measuring and reporting, how many public events and how many ways the market has had an impact on the community around it. The next piece I want to really just touch on, and that I mentioned a little bit earlier, is one of the benefits of changing operating models is that it opens the door to funding that are closed to city governments, one of those opportunities being tax credits. This legislation gives the nonprofit the authority it needs to spend the time and money that it'll need to put together a tax credit project. We anticipate there's somewhere around $10 to $13 million available between new markets, historic tax credits, both state and federal, available to support the capital at Westside Market, which is really important to, it's money that the city couldn't otherwise access. And then finally, before I turn to questions, the legislation also just repeals or adjusts laws that are currently on the books that says how the city should operate the market. We still want to keep those in place in case this was to revert back to city operation, but we also want to make sure that the nonprofit has the flexibility it needs to operate the market in accordance with the master plan and the business plan. So with that, I think we're all open to questions if you want to discuss.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments this morning. So a couple of questions before we go to the committee. As we were just discussing the parking lot, can you share some more details of the changes that will come as relates to the parking situation at the market?
Of course. So there are really technically two parking lots at Westside Market. There's the Hicks parking lot and the Westside Market parking lot. Collectively, it's about 600 spaces that are really for customer use and district use. It's district parking. The vendors have their own separate parking lot that they manage, also in Ohio City, and that's where a lot of the vendors park. This is a lease and management agreement that includes the parking lots, so the nonprofit will be responsible for the parking lots there. We'll set the rate. We'll hopefully have the flexibility for things like on game days, making sure that we're charging the right rate, because right now everyone knows to park at the Westside Market parking lot and walk across the street for the bridge for a couple dollars. We don't anticipate the parking rates changing dramatically. It's currently 90 minutes free until 6 p.m. Every day, so that people can shop, and then $1 an hour after that. We're anticipating 60 minutes free, and then $1.50 an hour after that. So a pretty minor adjustment that'll have a pretty big impact on the balance sheet and will really help support the operations of the nonprofit.
Okay, thank you. Chief, as it relates to the debt service that's on the parking lot, is that fully complete? Is the parking lot paid off, or are we retaining the liability but giving the assets to the market?
Yeah, through the chair, to the chairman, a good question. The debt, there is no debt outstanding related to the parking lot. We paid off all our parking debt last October, I believe.
Last October?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other debt that still remains as it relates to the market itself that the city will retain the liability on, or are we transferring that debt to the market corporation?
To the chairman. So when we've issued debt for the market, we've done it as general obligation debt. So it's just kind of debt of the city. It's not connected to the revenues of the market, and so that would continue to be paid in the way that we issued the bonds through our property tax and income tax revenues.
Sure. So will the new market corporation bear any responsibility to assist in repaying some of the debt that's associated with the GO bonds that we issue?
I think to the chairman, not directly. One way to think about it is as the market operations improve and it's able to operate more on its own financially, that will be less money coming out of the general fund to support its operations, which would be available then to help us take care of our other obligations. So right now, because of the way the market's operating at a deficit, not only are we paying the capital costs of the debt, but we're also paying operating costs. In the future, if this all works, we would at least cut off the general fund's obligation for operating costs.
Sure, thank you. To the market team, I know there was a lot of discussion around diversity as it relates to the vendors that exist at the market currently. And in your presentation, you talked about community benefits. You mentioned diversity, increased diversity of tenants in the market. Can you share with us what progress you all have made? What steps have you? What have you changed to begin to actually make that a reality, to increase diversity in the market?
Of course. So to the chair, one of the really challenging parts of how the market is operated right now is we have a really slim team that's only able to, focus on so much, and they don't do a lot of recruitment. And so we're really reactive to, whoever calls and wants to open a business at the market, we're reacting to those requests. So we really don't have much of a pipeline for, thinking about how to diversify our vendors. We're also pretty limited in the type of businesses that we can accommodate at the market right now. So a lot of the businesses who call, who happen to have diverse backgrounds, want to do things like prepared food or want to be able to, there's this really incredible business who calls me quarterly, who has a place in Glenville, who wants to open up a place in the West Side Market. And I have to constantly say, I don't have a spot to accommodate you. I don't have a place where we can put an exhaust hood or, accommodate the type of business that you're trying to open here. So part of what we're planning to do with the North Arcade, which is sort of the longer portion of the market, is turn that into a prepared food space so that we will have the turnkey spaces available for businesses who want to open prepared food in the market. And a big component of the master plan is being really intentional about recruiting businesses, about really thinking about the type of food that isn't already available at the market to diversify both the vendors but also the cuisine that's available at the market. Because I think one of the big sort of disappointments of the market is that it doesn't reflect the culinary diversity of our city, and it really can and should. And that's why it's, highlighted so strongly in this business, this proposal is, I think it's crucial for the market success.
Mr. Chairman, if I could,
Yes.
The Public Market Corporation really, I can't say has made any actual operating progress yet because we don't operate the market yet. But what we have been doing is talking about possibilities. For one thing, we enthusiastically embrace the goals that Jessica laid out, that we're completely committed to those. And when it comes to the diversification of the vendors, one key issue, it seems to us, is the pipeline of vendors. And how do you generate entrepreneurial businesses, especially among underrepresented populations, who could have stands in the market or could work in the market in new ways? So we've had preliminary conversations around that, including with Tri-C, with their Culinary Institute, about how we could partner to make that happen. And that could be everything from allocating space within the market for student-run sort of startup, pop-up kinds of shops as they're developing the expertise to grow into full-time businesses, as well as the possibility of food trucks, for instance, that might actually go around the city helping to address some of the food desert issues, but also engaging students and those who really aspire to get into this field.
Okay, thank you for that. So that's a good take on it, to utilize the local institution to help, encourage people to get into the field. Although the New Market Corporation is not operating the West Side Market just yet, I think the stuff maybe the city can do now. Administration loves press release, right? So with the good press release going out to the universe to solicit potential vendors to come into the market, and particularly minority vendors, right? Maybe it's a list on the website, maybe a blast through ED and our partners like Jumpstart or Urban League or ECDI or who else do we work with, and all the other organizations that we work with, because it may Hispanic Business Center. We have the Coit Farmers Market that exists, right? You have some minority vendors who work out of Coit Farmers Market, who really could be, good placements here at the West Side Market. So, there's ways to reach people, while we go through the process of establishing the new market, West Side Market Corporation, nonprofit corporation. So I hope we don't wait until the deal is the ink is dry on the paper, to go after folks. So I would encourage the administration to go visit the Coit Farmers Market, contact the folks who operate it, right? Send a press release, maybe do something joint with council, to solicit individuals who potentially could be vendors or are vendors. You have a lot of back of the truck vendors too that they don't who are doing very well. They set up in communities, set up in neighborhoods. Who can, if they get a few pieces of paper right, can someone who can walk through the door here at the West Side Market. So, I just hope that we don't wait until the ink is dry on the paper before we go and begin to pursue these individuals. All right, you just add that to the list of many things that you're doing around the West Side Market.
Thanks,
Okay.
Chair. Okay.
All right, thank you. We'll turn it over to the Councilman Harsh.
Thank you, Chair. I just have a couple questions trying to understand this as best I can. So, through the Chair, I'm sorry, what is your title, Mr.?
Senior strategist.
To the Senior Strategist, Trevisano. The annual payment, we're going to start with $200,000, and you said it would be about $700,000 per year, but that'll be year by year. Is that in here as a not to exceed? Or I only see in section 2 the initial $200,000 payment. Can you just point me to that so I can?
I think through the chair, I can address that. Because the West Side Market is an enterprise fund, and all of our funds have to be balanced at the end of every year, we'll have to appropriate whatever is necessary to ensure that it operates in a balanced manner. I think historically in the last several years, that's been around the $700,000
Okay.
mark. It's been a little more, it's been a little less, depending on the year. And so I think that's essentially what will continue until the market starts to operate on its own revenues.
So essentially through the Chair to the Chief, we're on the hook for whatever's needed.
Through the chair on the
Because-
operational side, yes.
Okay. So then through the Chair to the Senior Strategist, I guess my question is, well, first off, what is the current vendor collection per year in rent from vendors? What is that number?
Sure. To the councilman through the chair, it's about 1.2 million.
Okay. And so previously, or up until now, for 100 years or whatever, that's been collected by the city.
Correct.
And moving forward, that will be collected by the Cleveland Public Market, excuse me, the Cleveland Public Market Corporation will collect that 1.2 million. And then through the Chair to the Senior Strategist, how many people will be on the payroll for the Cleveland Public Market?
Yeah, to the councilman through the chair, it'll change over time as new spaces become available and there's, a need for things like an event coordinator. Initially, I anticipate 8 or 9
Okay.
on the payroll, maybe going up to, 15 when there's a commercial kitchen that we could have a commercial kitchen coordinator for, like I said, event space that will require event personnel to, bring those revenues in. But that'll change as.
Oh, okay, and through the Chair, are those positions that are transferring from current city positions to the nonprofit, or will those be new positions at the market?
Yeah, to the councilman through the chair, they will be positions for the nonprofit. They won't be city positions. There are currently really 5 full-time employees of the city of Cleveland who are at West Side Market who will be finding positions in other places of the city. So that we won't have city West Side Market staff
Okay.
there anymore. It will be entirely managed by the nonprofit and their staff.
So through the Chair then, the annual payments that the city has had to make to the West Side Market to keep it flush because it's an enterprise fund are on top of the 1.2 million that we've been collecting from vendors. But if that 1.2 million is diverted to the new West Side Market, CPMC, through the Chair to maybe to the Chief, then the 700, the whatever money we have to pay to make it flush now comes out of the general fund and not from revenue.
Through the chair, it's been coming out of the general fund
Okay.
all along.
So the 1.2 million we've been collecting has been spent before.
Yeah,
It
so
gets-
so the expenses, let's just, for ease of numbers, let's say the expenses have been $2 million a year, rent collections have been 1.2 million. That gap is what
Okay.
the general fund has had to supplement
So if we have a $2 million operating expense per year that the city is liable for, and we don't even collect the 1.2 million, I guess what I'm trying to get at is if we aren't collecting the vendor revenue and it's instead going to this nonprofit, when the nonprofit spends the money on salaries, that money doesn't go into maintenance of the market itself. If the market is now 2 million short, are we up for 2 million per year? Because we didn't collect the rent and went to the salaries that are being created by the new nonprofit.
Yeah, through the chair to the councilman, I think it's a good question. The math remains the same. The money, the rent will be collected by the nonprofit corporation, but we're still going to be looking at the same operating expense pot. It might go up a little bit as.
But instead of the rent being used on operating expense, the rent's going to be used on salaries for the new positions being created. So the operating cost of the market still needs to be paid.
Through the chair, the rent revenue will cover the salaries of the nonprofit corporation will be part of the operating expense jumble of the market, and the nonprofit corporation will be responsible for paying those operating expenses. The city's responsibility would jump in if and when those operating expenses exceed the revenue collected by the market, which is the same. It's the same math as we've been working with for the last several years.
But through the chair, if we're creating all these new positions, the operating expense is going to go up, while revenue collection does not.
Yes,
But the city is ultimately responsible for making it flush.
Through the chair, that's correct. I think operating expenses will go up, and Jessica and Dave can certainly talk about this more intelligently than me. But the vision is to invest in the operations, invest in the capital infrastructure, to set the market up to ultimately be in a position where it can operate on its own revenues.
Yeah. And I understand a lot of the goal here is to raise extra revenue that the city doesn't currently have access to, and that is supposed to plug some of these holes. I guess I'm just concerned that plan doesn't meet expectations. Then there could be a nightmare scenario where we have dramatically increased expenses and not enough revenue to cover them, and the city's still on the hook for those increased those increased expenses. That's like a concern.
Yeah, to the councilman through the chair, I mean, there's a couple ways that we're really thinking about the, revenue side of the market that is dramatically different. One is the parking. The parking
Sure.
revenue is a pretty dramatic change. Currently, the city gets about $100,000 in revenue from West Side Market, and that goes into our parking department.
Right.
When we are able to have the nonprofit lease the parking lot and set the rates, we're anticipating that'll be about $800,000 of revenue available to the nonprofit that isn't currently available to the West Side Market's balance sheet. That $800,000 on its own gets us pretty close to, making up the difference in operating expenses. The nonprofit will also be required to provide, their balance sheet, their income and operating expenses to the city. So if, for some reason it's really not penciling out, the city will have to take a look at that. And if the math doesn't make sense, then this agreement doesn't make sense anymore. And there will certainly be outs in the agreement that if this isn't, this is all on paper right now, we feel really confident that it can work out.
Well,
But
through the chair, are there outs in the agreement?
there are, yeah.
Okay, based on expected revenue,
Or
fundraising?
And the reality is that council will be asked every year to make an annual appropriation. If the annual appropriation that you're asked to make is astronomical, council will have the authority and the power to have oversight over that amount.
But it's a 10-year lease.
Right.
It's up to it's up to a 10-year lease.
Up to?
Up to.
I thought it was a straight 10-year.
Up to 10 years.
So is it renewable annually then? Is that?
It's not. No, it's up to 10 years.
So the first lease is 10 years, or up to means that there are opportunities to change that. If you say up to, then that means there's also a cutoff below that. And so my question is, when is the release up for renewal through the chair or when is it up for review by the city?
And what is the initial lease term? So is it, you said up to 10 years, is it the first lease is 5 years and you're gonna consider renewal for another 5 years?
The exact term is we're still negotiating with CPMC. It won't exceed 10 years. And so I guess the time that the lease could be up for renewal, like when city council could take a second look at the lease, is 10 years. But if the nonprofit doesn't have the operating capacity because city council has decided not to appropriate the funds, then I imagine the nonprofit will want to terminate the lease earlier.
Yeah,
Well,
and through the chair, if I
There are
may,
plenty of nonprofits that should have
Through the-
stopped existing years ago. And they
through the
don't because people
chair,
get paid.
I think there will be performance metrics in the lease, just like there are in the management agreement for Highland Golf Course, where if the nonprofit operator is not fulfilling what it is we
Right.
expect them to do, substantively, putting the money aside, if they're not running the market in a way that is up to our standards and up to our expectations, we will be able to terminate the arrangement.
And so through the chair then to both of you, but that's going to be negotiated between the administration and CPMC.
Correct.
That will not come up for our review. We're just deciding whether or not to give you the authority to enter into those negotiations.
Through the chair, that's
I mean, we
correct.
could.
So, I'm the best laid plans of mice and men, right? And I'm just trying to imagine if this goes sideways, what does it look like for the taxpayers of Cleveland if this doesn't, if the fundraising capacity doesn't come through? And I think there will be certainly opportunities for additional revenue, and I'm not trying to be, entirely pessimistic, but 10 years is a long time. A lot of things can change. And I'm seeing a huge increase in cost associated with personnel. I'm seeing, an attempt to bring in a lot more revenue to make up for it. The parking thing is totally fine. I have no qualms or concerns about that. I'm just wondering if the expected revenue doesn't keep up with the planned expenses, and the taxpayers end up being on the hook for it no matter what. If that number starts to exceed $700,000 a year, and we're not getting any revenue, and you're saying that's beyond revenue collection anyway, but that would be a very troublesome, development. That would be bad for the people of Cleveland, and I just want to know, what are our options to address that should that happen?
Yeah, and to the councilman through the chair, that is almost the exact situation that the market is in today, is
Sure.
that our revenues are not, meeting
Right.
our expenses, and we're putting the taxpayers on the hook. If anything, I
Right.
will say, this is our solution to that problem, is by bringing in a nonprofit that has this capacity to diversify revenue, to bring in different, operating opportunities. This is our solution to that, as opposed to, a new problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, and through the chair, I think to Jessica's point, the status quo is not working. The market, the physical plant is in terrible condition.
Oh,
The market's
I've toured it. Yes, I
losing
understand.
money every year, and to solve it, we have to take a swing.
No,
And this is the swing.
Sure, I'm not saying don't go to bat, right? But I'm just trying to understand, if we strike out, what does it look like? Through the chair to the chief strategist. So when the West Side, when the CPMC is, I believe it's already created, you've taken care of that, but will you remain an employee of the city, or are you going to go are you going to be an employee of the CPMC?
Yeah, to the councilman through the chair, I will not be an employee of CPMC.
Okay.
Ohio ethics laws prohibit that, no revolving door. And I will stay an employee of the city. I imagine my portfolio of projects will change, because once I'm done with this, then
see.
it becomes the responsibility of CPMC to manage the market. And
Okay.
so I anticipate still being an
So
employee.
you do the handoff, and then okay.
Correct.
I think that's all my questions. I guess the only point that I just want to make sure that I have clarity on is that we're being asked to provide authorization to enter, for the administration to negotiate a lease agreement with CPMC that can go up to 10 years. I would certainly hope that the administration, and I don't know, Chairman, if there's a ways for us to codify this, but puts in strong financial transparency and accountability measures to ensure the people of Cleveland that this doesn't go sideways, and that if the expected fundraising is far short and we're being asked to foot the bill for higher and higher amounts, and I understand there's rough waters, but I would hope that there is some accountability and transparency on that lease, so that we're not locked into a 10-year that ends up costing more than, and I understand status quo is a non-long-term scenario, but I hope that I don't know if we can do that, but
Yeah, and
that's,
through the chair on that point, I think, we can look to other agreements that we've entered into. So Highland Golf Course is a really good example. It's a very similar arrangement where, there's regular reporting from the nonprofit manager of Highland Golf Course. They have to submit an annual audit. They have to provide, we have the right to send our Division of Internal Audit to inspect their books, inspect their operations, to make sure that they're doing exactly what our contract with them requires. And I think we implement the same kinds of tools here so that we're getting not just annual reporting, financial reporting and operational reporting from the nonprofit corporation, but also, it could be, depending on how the money is flowing, monthly reporting, quarterly reporting, the ability to inspect books, because we share the same desire to ensure that this is working well and that public money is being used in the most effective and efficient way possible. And the specific contours of those oversight tools and those transparency tools will depend on kind of where the negotiation goes. But we certainly will ensure that not only are those kinds of provisions in the agreement, but then also if, as a result of that oversight, we see that this isn't working very well, that we have the ability to terminate the arrangement and just essentially revert to the current state of affairs, which, we know isn't the best operating model, but we know it. And, sometimes the devil is better.
Say that again.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, if I could, to the councilman, I just want to stress how seriously the Public Market Corporation takes the spirit of partnership with the city on every issue you've raised, on everything that you've heard at this table. There's no disagreement. We know that if this is not a complete, open, and transparent partnership, that it will not work. We do believe that the city's judgment is correct, that a nonprofit management model makes the most sense. But we're taking something of a leap of faith here, we on the Public Market Corporation, because it will become our responsibility to raise the money, which no one has ever attempted to raise for the market before. But we love the market so much and we care about the city so much, we're willing to take that leap, but we do it in this total sense of partnership with the city. We're not interested in this being adversarial. We're not interested in there being any finger pointing as we go down the road. We're going to go down this road holding hands together, and we just are hopeful that it will work out. In fact, we're confident it will, but we have to get to work.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Councilman. Thank you, Mr. Abbott. Listen, I think we're all in the same boat. We just want this to work out, right? So let me ask you this. When the Highland Golf Course project was submitted to us, was those terms also submitted to us when we approved it at that time?
To the chairman, no. We brought the legislation to council, went through the committee hearings to discuss the pros and cons of it, and then with the authority, we then went and negotiated the agreement. Happy to provide a copy of that so you can take a look, the committee can take a look and get a sense of the kinds of protections we baked into the agreement, with the caveat that it's different, it's similar but different. For one big reason is that this will be a lease that was a management agreement, so there's kind of a structural difference in how we approach the two, but the basic effort to establish the partnership while maintaining some transparency and oversight to ensure that it's being done up to our expectations, and we're able to have some oversight in how the money is flowing, being spent, et cetera. Happy to provide that document.
Sure. and before I turn to Councilman McCormick, I heard the response that if council sees that the revenues are not lining up and our appropriation is continuously, going up, that we've been asked to appropriate, and that leaves it to council to pull the rug from up under the operation of the market. I just don't believe that it needs to, that be our only mechanism to address this situation, if it doesn't turn out the way we all want it to turn out. Because we all know what would happen. Oh, well, council can just, not appropriate. And then it becomes council did it, right? It's their fault, right? And no, what I'm not going to do is leave that and put that burden on the backs of us, to make that tough decision alone and other folks hide in the shadows while we do the heavy lifting, okay? Yeah. So we need to make sure we figure that out. What that looks like to make sure that we have spelled out on if this doesn't go right or there's some issues that we, can address them appropriately, opposite of only council pull in the appropriation to supplement the operations of the market. Okay.
Yeah, to the chairman, I think we would certainly work with the nonprofit to get operating expenses in a more sustainable level. And then, of course, the mayor's estimate for whatever year that we're talking about would be delivered with budgetary levels in there that we think are appropriate. And so this would not be, here, council, you guys do the dirty work. We would absolutely do our jobs and make sure that the budget that's presented makes sense.
Okay. You know, you got some good people, some smart people, some connected people who was a part of this public corporation. So, you know, we got confidence in them that they are going to deliver and make this work, and that we're all going to walk down the street holding hands, and, and it all comes together. Councilman McCormick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Without your objection, would you appoint
Yes.
Councilman Slife to temporarily member of the committee?
Yes, Councilman Slife is appointed.
All right, Mr. Clerk,
Do you need
Please.
to do anything?
you've got it. All right. He's like, I got it.
That's
know what
Alan.
I'm doing. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate this opportunity to speak on this ordinance, and appreciate your leadership in bringing this here today. To our leadership team here on the West Side Market, thank you for being here. Mr. Chairman, I'm the old man in these conversations a lot now. I've been involved in this conversation directly now for over 11 years, and many a lot longer than I have. I reflect on the 387 studies that have happened at the West Side Market over the last 5 centuries that have been recommending this change in operations. The last one recommended it, but for political reasons was removed from the report prior to this administration. But Mr. Chairman, and I don't say this with any gratitude or with any joy, the city has miserably failed the West Side Market and the vendors of the West Side Market for decades. Miserably. We are in the water. The city is in the water. The CPMC is in the lifeboat with the life raft. So, for so long, Mr. Chairman, our vendors have been patient. The community has been patient. This council has called for change at the West Side Market, and I'm thankful now that we have an administration who believes in that and is putting that work, those initiatives to work, because unfortunately we did not have that previously, and as our council president, myself, our former majority leader, Phyllis Cleveland, were advocating for these changes years ago. And I always remind folks about that. Council President Griffin has been a supporter of this for a long time.
Absolutely.
So it's great to see that this day is finally here. I appreciate the line of questioning, and one of the great things about this council, and I tell everybody, you're going to get really good questions when you get to this table. You're going to get tough questions, and it's the best for the public that we bring forward those tough questions. But unequivocally, Mr. Chairman, I look at the current setup of the market and having 3 employees while Philadelphia has 16 for a much smaller market. Right now, if the market were properly run, we would have probably a $2 million gap today that the city would be making up. But right now, we have 2.5 employees managing 1.5 million visitors a year, and it is completely unsustainable and broken. So today, Mr. Chairman, we should probably be at a subsidy level of $2 million today if we were properly managing the market, which we are not, and we have failed to do for decades. So I view this situation as not if the car crashes. The car is crashed. It's on the side of the road, and the oil is setting on fire. So I'm not worried about if the car crashes because it's already crashed. So we're at a point now where I'm appreciative that this council's leadership, Mr. Abbott, Jessica, and the mayor's team are really taking the important and courageous step of doing what most other American cities have done with their public markets, and that is retaining public ownership. And I want to make that very clear. The citizens of the city of Cleveland will always own the West Side Market. It is not going to be condos. I've heard condos. I've heard a train station.
Casino.
I've heard a casino. Whatever. Strike that comment from my colleague on my left. But Mr. Chairman, the citizens will always own the market, and it will always be a market. I think over all of our collective dead bodies is that will always be in the place. So I cannot stress enough of how, number one, the situation at the market has been broken. Number two, the patience of our vendors and their commitment when at times there wasn't a whole lot of hope. And we are finally at a position now where I fundamentally believe we are developing a structure that will lead to the long-term sustainability of the West Side market. Mr. Chairman, we don't have to guess about this work. Again, we are one of the last major cities in America to do it, unfortunately, just like the parking meters that are getting switched. It's not a badge of honor, but we're able to see across the country, and I know that Ms. Trevisano has done significant research on how this has worked in other cities, which has influenced the plan that we've seen in front of us today. Yes, there will have to be rigorous oversight. Absolutely, there will have to be intense conversations and work in order to ensure that this is successful. But this market, if we don't move forward, in my opinion, with this plan, will continue to hemorrhage. We'll continue to see massive subsidies from the city of Cleveland and challenges. So, we're in a position now where this allows us to take that step to live up to the expectations of the citizens of the city of Cleveland, to live up to the expectations of the vendors have for the city, to live up to our own expectations of what this public market can be. And I think that that's one of the things, too, that I want to focus on, Mr. Chair. We know the challenges that are there today, and we know we're talking a lot about how to get us treading water. But what is so incredibly exciting about the work that's here, the brilliant, diverse, talented people that are part of the Cleveland Public Market Corporation, the staff that are helping, move this forward, our vendors, is what the West Side market could be and will be. And I think far too often in Cleveland we think about, survival, which is reasonable. But we're at a point, too, where we can dream a little bit. We can understand the fact that the market can make money, can produce revenue, can thrive. We can create funding sources that don't put the entire burden of the expenses on the vendors, that allow for fundraising, that allow for capital investment, that allow for activation, that ensures that, and we've been talking about this when Mike Cox was at the table a long time ago, that ensures that all of our neighborhoods, which, by the way, Mr. Chairman, to your point, needs to be a critical pillar in this plan. All of our neighborhoods and the diversity of our neighborhoods are represented within those stands and within the vendors of the West Side market. So how do we get folks out of Glenville and Clark Fulton and West Park and beyond to have a presence within the West Side market? Not only I think is that the right thing to do, but I think it's critical for its long-term sustainability, is that we have a wonderful, diverse group of vendors at the market. And I know that the city's been making a lot of progress on that, but really emphasizing that, Mr. Chairman, to your point, is critical. So I've reviewed this lease, been involved in these conversations for a long time. And I'm really excited and confident in the structure of this moving forward. I believe that this is the only way that we are going to create a sustainable model, not only for the market and the well-being of the market, but to get the taxpayers also off the hook. Nobody wants a subsidy. Nobody wants a subsidy. We want the market to be fully self-sustainable and reinvesting in itself. So again, based on over a decade of conversation, based on examples and research of what almost every other city in America with a similar setup has done in one form or another. You need to look no further than Columbus and Detroit, not just the LAs and DCs of the world, but our peer cities. We're at a point now where we can make a decision to move forward with this new structure and create a path where in 6 months, 1 year, 5, 10 years, we have a diverse, thriving, sustainable, exciting, activated market that we are all proud of. And that the vendors that have stuck with us and show up every single day to work at the market. And by the way, they show up the days they're not open too. Misnomer out there, they do. They work every single day to ensure that their small businesses thrive. And so, to me, I am thoroughly convinced through all the conversations, through all the research, through all the hard work that the CPMC's put together, through the blood, sweat, and financial equity of our vendors, that this step will set us up for success. Absolutely. And Mr. Chairman, I think it's incumbent upon this council, as I say often, we can call a committee hearing whenever we want. So if we want to have Jessica here every month to talk about her progress, we can do that. Absolutely. I mean, we could. So, yeah, it's under the finance. But I agree, though. I think it's important that this council, for the citizens of Cleveland, whether it's every 6 months, every year, hold a hearing to check in on the progress of the CPMC, to see how things are going. But again, I think we are not worried about a car crash. The car has crashed. And we are now thinking about how do we get the market to a point not only where it is sustainable, but where it is exciting, thriving, diverse public market that it can be. And Mr. Chairman, the last thing I'll say is, every time I go to a new city, I go to their public market. Every single time. I make a point to go to their public market. And what I always come back with is the fact that Cleveland has got to have the most spectacular market in the country. And I'm not using hyperbole. I'm not just saying that as a Cleveland booster. Not only the grandeur of the architecture, but the quality and the history of our small business vendors that are in there every single day. But we're not living up to the potential, anywhere near the potential of what we could be. So again, to me, with this plan, we are bringing the market from underwater to above water and setting itself up to thrive for another 100 years so that Anthony Hairston Jr. is able to go to the market and be proud of it as a diverse, thriving cultural hub for the city of Cleveland. But once again, I think that without this plan, we're not going to be able to do it. And we have many, many other examples from across the country of where this has succeeded. And I think to the very important, direct, and wise questions of Councilman Harsh, we're going to have to ensure that it is sustainable for everybody. It's a sustainable model for everybody. And again, from everything from diversified revenue sources to the revenue from the parking lot, I think we're going to be able to get there. I really do believe we're going to get there. And we've got the former head of one of Cleveland's prominent foundations to help shake couch cushions and ask people for money to help support this. So
I'll hold them down.
So again, Mr. Chairman, we've had this conversation for many years. This has been a long, long time coming. This council has led for a long time on this issue of reforming the market. We have a wonderful group of people that are volunteering their time and their expertise to help manage this through, led by our chairman right here. And I know that in a year or 6 months, whenever we choose to bring this group back to the table, we're going to see significant progress. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right. Thank you, Councilman McCormick. Great comments as usual. Any further questions or comments from the committee? All right. See no further questions or comments from the committee, but we do have an amendment. Councilman?
Okay, Mr. Chairman. Here it is. I would like to propose an amendment to ordinance number 1093-2023 and reading it as follow. In the title, line 9, strike the these and insert the. Number 2, in section 2 at the end of the section, add the following. RQS 7005, RLA 2023-97. Assuming that our law director has that amendment? Yes, ma'am. Okay, that is my motion, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second? We have a second. Any discussion? No discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes. All opposed? All right. Thank you. The amendment is passed. All right. Seeing no further questions, ordinance number 1093-2023 as amended stands approved. All right. Thank you. Appreciate your time. If anything come up between now and finance, we'll make sure you get it. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care. ED, come on up, Film Commission. Ordinance number 1022-2023 by Councilmembers Harrison and Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance to amend sections 138.07 of the codified ordinance of the Cleveland, Ohio, 1976, as amended by ordinance number 1266-02, passed January 7, 2003, relating to enhancing the city's ability to address, nope, wrong piece I'm reading. Strike that from the record. Ordinance number 1199-2023 by Councilmembers Griffin and Harrison by departmental request, an emergency ordinance authorizing Director of Economic Development to enter into a grant agreement with the Greater Cleveland Media Development Corporation, DBA, Greater Cleveland Film Commission, or its designee to assist with general operation expenses of the organization. Good morning, Director.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I'm joined here today by Stephanie Philibert from our office, as well as Bill Garvey, the president of the Greater Cleveland Film Commission, and Lowell Perry, their chief diversity officer, members of the committee. So I actually distinctly remember a former colleague of mine who used to work in the mayor's office when the city of Cleveland gave their first operating support grant to Ivan Henderson, then nascent Greater Cleveland Film Commission, with the idea of creating a film production industry in Northeast Ohio. I also remember, as a downtown resident, watching the Sandman chase Spider-Man down Euclid Avenue. It was a very different time then. It actually took the magic of the movies to take what was a moribund Euclid Avenue and fill it with life of people and storefronts. And I remember the Avengers kind of coming in to save downtown Cleveland, right? And always amazed at what that does when you are watching those movies and you see Cleveland represented in there. And if you look at the work of what this film commission has done over the course of time in those 14 years, in Springwood has been over $1 billion of economic output, created 6,000 full-time jobs in this industry during that course of time. Right? And some of those things are quantifiable and some of them aren't, right? Like that civic pride that I talk about, the kind of tourism aspects of this that come in. Again, as we sit here before you, and I am going to let Mr. Garvey and Mr. Perry kind of talk through some of the impact of the Film Commission. I know that in the past you have asked, as has our department, for them to focus more on what is the benefit to local Clevelanders, how are we getting more neighborhood businesses and residents involved, which is something that they have been working on. And so from there, I will hand it over to Mr. Garvey and Mr. Lowell.
Mr. Garvey.
Thank you, Director McNair. To the chair. So throughout the last 15 years that I've lived in Cleveland, I've been part of that crew. So when we talk about economic impact of this organization, I've been the benefactor of that, along with lots of local Clevelanders who work on these movies alongside what I used to do. So hundreds of people work on each project. Along with that comes the spending at local businesses that we always work with on each project, hundreds total. So over the course of the last decade, that's been output of over $1 billion, $1.38 billion to be exact. And most of that comes to Cleveland. So traditionally, we've secured between 60 and 70% of the business that comes to the state of Ohio comes to Cleveland. And that's not incidental. It's based on the work that we do. We proactively pitch Cleveland as a destination for these projects. At any one time, there's over 4,000 projects in development. We find the projects that can be successfully told in Cleveland and pitch producers to get them to come here. They're not necessarily writing stories about Cleveland, but Cleveland is a chameleon. It's represented every other city. And we do a really good job of it, to the tune of $1 billion in that last decade. In this year alone, we've secured $118 million worth of production through the tax incentive. And we're about to take a major leap forward next year. Starting next year, we're almost doubling the Ohio program to be able to secure almost double the work. So at the same time, that doubles our work. So now we have more capacity, but we need to grow that. And we need to build crew base to meet that demand, because producers want to hire local. They want to work with local business. So we're tireless in our efforts to develop programming, to create that awareness, to create opportunity, and to train with the skills that you need to take these jobs. And so over the course of the last year, we have
conducted multiple workshops as we do, but we've expanded all that programming. We've expanded programming for underrepresented, and we do that consistently throughout the years so that the awareness is there and the opportunity is taken. With that, I'm going to hand off to our Chief Diversity Officer and Community Engagement VP, Lowell, to talk about some of the work that he's been doing.
To the chair, good morning. Appreciate the opportunity to be here and speak with y'all today. We're really excited about where we're headed. I'm the newest member of the Greater Cleveland Film Commission. Can't believe it's been almost a year. I started in January, and I'm having a blast. I'm getting to do a couple of things that I'm very passionate about. One is my passion for the industry as a SAG-AFTRA actor who's been in a number of movies and commercials and voiceovers and all those kinds of things. and also as a champion for diversity, equity, and inclusion. I've had a long history in that. Grew up in Detroit, Michigan. I actually ran an MBE, an automotive manufacturing facility. If you're from Detroit, you're going to do cars at some point. And I've seen the benefit to communities in having intentionality around an inclusive culture. We're looking at that internally as an organization, our board, our staff, the vendors that we deal with as a commission, as well as the productions that come to town. How can we raise the bar, not just for the jobs and career opportunities that we're creating as a commission, but also enterprise opportunities. How can we get more businesses engaged and involved? In the previous presentation, there was a question, and I heard some conversation around a pipeline for that. You know, how do you get out and reach and prepare and make sure that folks are ready to come in and compete for opportunities? And so those are some of the things that I personally have been having conversations with people from the city, like Tyson Mitchell and Terrell Knight. We just had coffee last week to talk about what does that look like? How can some of our local filmmakers and people that are producing product understand the fact that they are small businesses at the core of this, and their product, their service happens to be a film, a documentary, or what have you. And so how can we better prepare these folks to be able to grow their businesses and utilize the growing film and media production industry as part of that growth profile? Part of my job involves working with local partners like GCP, who've had a number of conversations with Patrice Blakemore and Megan Kim and others over there, my fellow Yaley Beju, you know, about how can we again look at the business impact in this community while ensuring that all have an opportunity to be involved in this. You know, the whole inclusivity piece, and I mean, you spoke very eloquently there, Councilman McCormick, about the importance, again, with the previous group that was here, of taking advantage and really leveraging the beautiful tapestry of diversity that we have in this city. And so we're very intentional and playing the long game on this. This is not just something that we're talking about doing, even though I'm the inaugural Chief Diversity Officer with this organization. We're committed as an organization, as a board, to ensuring that Cleveland as a whole has an inclusive culture that is open to all, and that the curtain to that tent is wide open, and people don't have to kind of slide in and hope that they get in on time, that it's wide open saying, look, you're welcome here. We are trying to, again, walk the talk even with a major event that we have coming up in November that you probably have heard about, that Ralphie is coming home, the 40th anniversary of A Christmas Story, and a cast expo that's going to feature the largest reunion of the cast from that movie ever. and we're excited about that. Al Roker is also coming home. He's going to be the moderator for Behind the Camera panel, so that gives it even additional star power, and Cleveland will be on the national stage, which is a beautiful thing. Again, about this business, about film and media production, we help bring the cool factor to what's going on in this town, the renaissance and the things that are happening here. We were very intentional when we were pulling this together that we wanted to make sure that folks are not going to be left out who typically don't get involved. So the sponsorships that have been coming to the table and all are also going to send folks from underrepresented communities to all of the happenings that are taking place, including a VIP dinner in Asia Town, at Liwa. I don't know if they're going to be chopping necks off of ducks or anything like that, like happened in the movie, but we're going to make sure that takes place. We're going to make sure that at the panel that people from these our grassroots community partners are going to be able to help identify people to come down, including some of the folks in my old stomping grounds. When I was first in Cleveland, 2015 to 2018, I was with Sisters of Charity Foundation and ran the Central Promise neighborhood. And so I know Central very well, and reconnecting with a lot of those partners over there. And again, that's just part of our trying to walk the talk with this, and as well as ensuring that local students that are interested in this industry and building on that cadre and bench strength of crew that Bill just mentioned are going to have an opportunity to come, if I'm in high school, I'm in college, to come and listen to Ralphie and some of the other ones talk about their journey into this industry and not have to pay for that. And as it turns out, what is it, 83% of the students, to 100% of the students that we deal with in our film skills course. Most of them look like me. In fact, I was just at Glenville High School last week speaking to a group. And so trying to be out there, more engaged, more visible. And again, Mr. Chair, that it is a long-term strategy that we have in place. And I think it's going to yield some significant fruit at the end of the day.
Thank you for your introduction. Thank you for being here. Happy to see that this is a position that the Film Commission has created, and you are at the helm of. And so, thank you for being here. You mentioned some things before I go to the committee. You mentioned you met with members of the administration, Tyson Mitchell and others, to talk about diversity and equity and inclusion. And around the film industry and how to get people involved. But I did not hear, as you mentioned, have you met with anyone from council, city council?
We've been having some conversation. I know that President Griffin is a big fan of what we're trying to do here. He and I have had some conversations out on the trail. I knew him from back in my Sisters of Charity days, and he said that he would be as helpful as he can. I know how busy he is and that, but we would love to have some more conversation. I noticed Councilwoman House Jones, again, is someone that we have had some engagement with. Bill and another colleague, Maria Russo, and I were here before with council to talk about some of the things that we're doing. So I would love to get more engaged with Councilwoman Santana in particular. I was just a great job, by the way, on the Cleveland Leadership Lunch and Learn. Enjoyed that conversation.
And Mr. Chair,
Sure.
they actually came to work for us and they presented to the team, to the committee,
The commission did?
the commission. Yes.
Okay, well, good. Well, listen, I want the commission to make sure they make it a point to interact with every member of council at some point. To talk with them about, kind of what they see and what they think, needs to happen, and kind of share your thoughts. We have different committees in council, there's different conversations. I know there's limited information that can be shared with someone in passing when you're out and about on the trail. And so we want to make sure that we are intentional about engaging council members in these conversations around the work that you all are doing, and how we can help you. There's nobody greater. I mean, I appreciate folks who's on the professional side and they do the work, the everyday work of operating the city. We absolutely we appreciate them 100%. But if you ask us, can you identify some small businesses or people in your neighborhood who can take advantage or be a part of these opportunities, we can absolutely give it to you within minutes, right? No one else has the connection and the engagement better than council members do, in their neighborhoods. All right, and so that is very important that members are engaged, to know what small businesses could do the work, right? Because I look at your business list. I see a lot of businesses on here. The majority of them are very large businesses, right? But there's a lot of small mom and pop shops throughout our city who have storefronts on our streets that are keeping our neighborhoods together, that should be on this list, right? That really should be on this list. Yes, Mr. Garvey.
To the chair. So we've been expanding our workshops to reach out to small businesses, especially in the underrepresented community. And to that end, we've partnered with the PNC Fairfax Center to try to make that contact, and the Sadler Institute and other organizations that are in the community in order to accomplish that. But we will as well work with the city council on that.
Got to make sure council knows, because my businesses don't deal with Fairfax, PNC Fairfax. My businesses don't deal with Sadler. They have a different organization they deal with. They deal with FAMICO, right? As they're the largest CDC for that Glenville, the CDC for that Glenville area, right?
I'm so sorry.
Go ahead.
To the chair. So we have worked with FAMICOS in the past too. In my old days on production, we actually worked with some of their locations.
So the relationship is there, and so we want to make sure that
yes.
we pivot that relationship to opportunities like this, and not just for locations or communities. No, by no means am I saying that you all are not making an attempt to engage, but I want to make sure that you all know that there is other places and people to touch in order to engage a different group of businesses and folks within our community. Okay, council is one of your number one, your best resources that you have to know what's happening in neighborhoods and who to talk to. When you call and you say, council, I'm trying to get a hold of somebody at this location for a film. Okay, give me 1 second. And we get them on the phone, right? Or him or her on the phone. And so it works the same way when we're trying to get folks to be participants in of some sort of service or vending opportunities that may exist. All right. And before I go to the committee, your sheet about production assistant workshop. Was this one workshop that was held, or is this a combination of many?
That's just one.
It's just one workshop.
Yeah,
that was held?
it's
Okay.
intended to be an example of the outreach and being intentional and trying to reach the community to give everybody the opportunity.
And how often are these workshops held?
We've run multiple workshops throughout the year. So we do a couple of big ones usually towards the beginning of the year when we have access to industry professionals we can bring in that are high-end people. So that we really have a robust expertise to present to them, and it discusses the business side of this. So not just the art, because there's a lot of great schools doing the art part of this, but the business side of it. In other words, paperwork and how to budget and how to schedule things and what a call sheet is and all the nuts and bolts of this business that make it work that you need to know to get your first job. And so that's what's behind that. This year we had our first workshop just for diverse and veterans. So we separated that out in addition to our regular workshop, in addition to other specific discipline workshops like art department and locations and all these other departments that have opportunities as well. So we kind of space that stuff out throughout the year. So we're continually offering resources to the community.
And how was that promoted? Because I'm not sure if I even heard about that or knew about that.
To the chair. So our website promotes it, and our newsletter, we reach 13,000 people.
Okay. So, when that information is available and you all schedule those, please get that to us because we have newsletters that we send out as well. And we go to about 10,000 every household, 10,000 households in our wards. That's information that we can help push, promote. Council has our social media sites. We have our website. We have ways that we can help promote that information. We want to make sure that, folks know about, first of all, and have access to these opportunities. I know many young people in our neighborhoods who are at such a young age who are making some very cool and neat films, right? Even these shorts that they're doing now, that's talent, right? These young people are talented. I can imagine. I can't do it now, right? And so, I have to call somebody else, hey, how do you do this? And my son himself as well, he can clip and cut, and do all the work to these videos. I can think of people like Edward Banks, who's a longtime DJ in our community, who also is the operator of Reading Ram, who produces films and videos, and Mike Williams, and, all of these people who are working with these local independent folks who are doing production work. We want to make sure we help, connect not those individuals who are kind of established, but those who are trying to get where they are at least. We can help push that information out, okay? I have not heard about Ralphie's coming home, so please make sure we get that. I'm interested in that. Do you work with other organizations such as like Art of Me, folks who work with young people, inspire them to be a part of this business?
Yes, Stephanie. Yes, we do. Open Door. So we have been intentional, reaching out to all the folks in this sector of our community, and also the schools, because Tri-C and CSU and CIA, they're doing a good job teaching as well. So we try to partner with everybody in this environment to get the word out and share resources.
Okay. Thank you. We'll open up to the committee for questions. Yes, Councilman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Support this ordinance. I wanted to drill down a little bit on some of your questions. As always, our chair leads with great questions. Chair to the team, I'm curious, so broad comment and then narrow it down to you guys. I think one of the things I've always thought about, within CMSD is we've got these institutions in Cleveland, be it the Museum of Art or the clinic or whatever it is, and how do we leverage those institutions to provide resources into CMSD? And I don't mean money, I mean how do we take expertise of the Cleveland Clinic and Metro Health and University Hospitals and directly embed it into getting our young people trained, excited into careers. I don't feel like we leverage our institutions enough in Cleveland. I feel like every institution should have a program with CMSD to, not just a program to check a box, but a meaningful program, right? To excite, classroom's a classroom, right? Which is great. We have wonderful teachers, but how do we really meaningfully bridge institutions, opportunity, the thousands of open jobs in Cleveland with our kids? Big point. Smaller point, Cleveland State. So, through the chairman, Cleveland State's got a film program. It seems like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that would be a natural pipeline into the industry. So to take it a step deeper, though, tell me more about how does CMSD work with Cleveland State, work with you guys? It just seems like such a really opportunity, right, to create a pipeline there. So can you, through the chair, just speak a little bit more about that pipeline?
Through the chair to the councilman. So we do partner with CMSD. So right now, for the last 2 years, we created a program that is a semester-long film skills, industry-led program. And we go into CMSD. This semester we're at CMSD Digital Arts. Next semester we're at School of the Arts. And we take industry professionals and we teach soup to nuts. So starting at the development of the screenplay, storyboarding, production design, cinematography, visual effects, special effects hair and makeup, editing, colorization, visual, it goes soup to nuts all the way through the process. And then we're fortunate that we have a veteran enough crew that is established enough and expert enough and has partnership with us that we bring them in and they teach these concepts. And then we supplement that with an online film skills program that has more resources, instructional videos, tests, so that we're reinforcing the concepts that we're teaching. In addition, we have the kids get their hands on equipment and actually learn how to film so that they're learning from the experts that do this for a living. And not only that, but it actually connects the kids with experts so that hopefully down the road they'll be hired by those experts because they hire. They're the department heads. And when I say we have high-end people living here and working in this business, it's the highest of high-end, Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences members, Emmy Award winning people. So, it really is a robust veteran crew base now. We just need to grow it. And we want to provide that pipeline and access and understanding that you can take an artistic talent and you can monetize it into a career that pays a pension and has health care.
Yep.
And health care that's fully funded, fully paid for you, that's pretty great. So 90% of these jobs that we're talking about on a crew are union jobs that get $152 a day in health and pension benefits. And with that funding, you don't have to pay your own health care. There's not too many industries that have a pension left. There's not too many industries that have grown by over $100 billion spent a year like this one. In 2012, there was $128 billion a year being spent on production. Now it's $238. That's last year, and now it's going to even grow. So streaming has led to this. So this is why this is so important for us to have made the leap that we're about to make to $75 million tax incentive next year, because now we can take more advantage of the more money that's looking for a landing spot. And over the course of its history, we've been the biggest landing spot in Ohio, and we want to continue to do that. And that starts with our high school program to send that pipeline into CSU, into Tri-C, which also has a film program, into CIA, and all these schools that are teaching at the college level. We don't want to replicate what they do. We just want to be a pipeline to them, as well as a pipeline into the industry, because honestly, this is an old school apprenticeship type job. Tri-C and CSU and CA are doing a great job of educating on the concepts and the talent, but there's another avenue as well. And so we want to provide all these opportunities and the options and show them a roadmap to success.
And I think that what you just said is so important, Chairman. And I think that as we think about our kids, our young people, I don't know, when do you start thinking about this? I don't know, maybe you never do, I don't know. But think our young people in 5th, 6th, 7th grade, definitely into high school. How do we help create clarity on opportunity, right? Because I think sometimes it can be really vague, but if you want to get into the film industry, if you want to become a nurse, if you want to work in a advanced manufacturing where you come out making $80,000 a year with benefits without a college degree, with training. I mean, to me, I feel like in the workforce conversation in Cleveland, and this is obviously expands above you all, but you're a part of it. How do we create clarity for our young people? Not just this is a fun activity, but this activity, this line of work, you can pursue and live a much better life, as the American dream says, and your parents or whoever, you can build wealth, you can do all that kind of stuff. So I really appreciate that last sentence, because I think that's really what we have got to do collectively a better job at, is clarity for our young people. You can live this kind of life doing something that you love with benefits and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I have friends from high school that I went with that are literally one of my good friends, and I'll leave his name out of it. He and I carpooled down to college together. And he just no negative resources in the home. I'm not going to say no resources. They struggled tremendously. He is now a mechanical engineer supporting his entire family after graduating from Miami University. So grew up on the east side of the city of Cleveland, an incredible human being. It's not just about supporting yourself and your family, but you're able to support mom or dad or siblings to get that. So it's this incredible ripple effect economically, which everyone at this table understands. But I appreciate your response there, because to me, this is another industry, be it healthcare or otherwise, where I feel we all have to become much more globally responsible for lifting up our young people in Cleveland into opportunity. We had a presentation yesterday through Policy Bridge about an urban agenda, and just really, Mr. Chairman, gaining clarity about how we are all globally responsible for illuminating the path, right? So if you're a young person in ending grade school and high school, film industry sounds cool. But how do I illuminate it is cool, but like, here's the next steps, and here's what your life could be, and here's what you could do. You know, so I appreciate that, and I'm glad to hear that. And shame on me for not knowing that Tri-C had a program. I've always just heard of Cleveland State. I'm a big fan of Tri-C, so that's great to hear. But so thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'm just excited to hear that there is that embedded partnership with CMSD, Tri-C, Cleveland State, and other CIA. Kent State, yeah. But I always get back to our kid, and when I say our kids, I mean I grew up in the city. I went to Villangel St. Joseph, so I did not graduate from CMSD. My rival high school was sitting here to my right, one of my rival high schools. But the point is, our Cleveland kids, right? How do we help illuminate that path?
That's right.
I think that is such an incumbent responsibility on all of us. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other questions? Councilwoman
Very
Santana?
quick.
and then
Thank you,
Harsh.
Mr. Chair. And once again, they presented in workforce. Thank you for that. Quick question, just along the same lines of Councilman McCormick. I'm curious to know, I know you said through the chair that you work with CMSD, but is it specific schools? It's not all CMSD schools, right? Because I don't see Lincoln West on here, which is their Global Cleveland program. So I'm curious to know.
To the councilwoman through the chair. So we work with specific CMSD schools one-off. So it's usually a class between 12 and 24 in order to get the hands-on experience that is the valuable part of this, right? So it's not just a lecture, it's about hands-on experience and getting interaction between the students and the industry professionals. So we intentionally leave it as a smaller size class in order to gain the value in that. So over the last 4 semesters that we've been doing this, we've gone from CSA to digital arts and back and forth, and also Ginn Academy was our spring semester earlier this year. So we intentionally target arts students because it's the desire to create an artistic career that I think is a motivating factor in this, and then teaching the way to translate that into a pensionable career too.
Got it. So you're essentially just working with 2 CMSD schools, right? Just the Cleveland School of Arts, right?
Yeah.
So considering there's no programs a lot around arts, or if they're not going to Cleveland School of Arts, then they don't have access to these programs, correct?
Well, to the councilwoman through the chair, we did go to Ginn Academy last semester, so the spring semester. So it is something that we try to travel around from school to school to give access to others.
So if we identify one of our high schools, what are the ages? Can you remind me?
We usually target juniors and seniors.
Okay, so maybe like 16. All right. So let's say it's Lincoln West, their global studies, very international, as you're talking about being inclusive and diverse. Do I have them connect with you, or how would that work? And then you're open to that. It's just you're not specifically just targeting Cleveland School of Arts. Like you're ready to expand.
To the councilwoman through the chair. So we also lecture at all schools on a one-off basis where we go in and talk about the careers in a more succinct way to kind of give them an exposure all in one setting, at one time. So that's also an option. Even if we're at one school during the semester, we can also go out to other schools, and we do, to talk about the industry and the potential and the opportunity.
Okay, thank you. My second question is PACE program, right? I know that council approved ARPA dollars to really expand on PACE, and going back to McCormick's comment, how do we leverage, right, those resources? I'm curious to know, are you aware of PACE program through CMSD school?
To the councilwoman through the chair, yes, we are, and we are trying to find ways to work with that program. That's more of a science and math-based program. But yes, we would love to work through that program if we can. And yes, I do know the folks working.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then my last question is, I see that you hosted a workshop in Brooklyn Center. Where was that held?
Brooklyn
That's
Center?
it, yes.
Oh, well, we travel around to all sorts of schools. Is it this?
Yes.
So it's not that the workshop was in Brooklyn Center, it's the person was from Brooklyn Center. So this is just a representation of attendees at one of
Got
our
it. Okay,
workshops.
so it's not that you held
We're
something.
trying to
Okay.
reach the community, and this is a representation of how far we're reaching. So as a one-off, just an example of where our folks are coming from.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Really quick, and so I know we're on the comment, well, not the comment, but the conversation around students. Now, has any of these CMSD students been hired to work on films that are coming to Cleveland? Not extras, that's one thing, but actually been hired to work on the films, these juniors and seniors?
To the chair. So this program is brand new. So our first semester was the spring of last year. So they aren't even out of high school yet. So, in order to work on a movie, you need to be 18, kind of out of the work, out of the school because it's 12-hour day. So a typical work day is 12 hours weekdays.
Okay.
So they're not graduates yet.
So they have to be 18 to be considered to work on the
Correct.
film. Okay. And I know you talked about events like mixers and other gathering places, but what seems to me is that when I talk to these artists and folks who are not only in this space but just who are artists, period, they need access to capital, right? They need resources. I don't think a party is going to help them, right? Or a mixer, but they need access to dollars. They need revenues to buy the equipment they need to be able to, put their marketing materials themselves together to be able to promote to individuals to then hire them, right? What is the Film Commission doing to support that type of work? Are you all investing in those people? Are you investing in the training? Are you paying them for to train them? Is there some sort of stipends? Walk us through what that looks like and how that is being offered to individuals who need the help, right? Money makes the world go round.
Sure.
And, especially in this world of artists. So, where we know the pickings are slim.
Sure.
I just dated myself.
To the chair. So, as a film commission, traditionally, film commissions aren't the funding source for arts programs. However, we do function as a central hub. So we want to be a marketplace of not just ideas and resources, but everything related to the film industry locally to create the ecosystem. And that's how I always made my living, because it wasn't just on movies, but it was working through all of it, documentary and print ads and commercial work, right? So we've really built out over the last couple of years a resource central hub for that purpose, for arts funding purposes. And there's some really good sources out there that we put together so that artists that are looking for funding can actually go to the website and source all that through us. A perfect example is Decentralized Pictures, which funds up to $250,000 per project. So there are funding sources out there, but traditionally film commissions aren't, that's not what we're capable of doing, just from our limited resources. Now, the networking mixers are really vital to what we do, and I think a very important part of creating success for local filmmakers, because without crew, without actors, without all that talent that goes into a project, it's not one person making a video. It's the most collaborative art form there is. And without that ability to source all that together, and this is the best way to do it through those networking mixers, you're not going to be successful doing it all by yourself. So what we do in creating that environment, there's 300 people that comes to those mixers, and they're all looking to work. So that is very important to a local artist to be able to be successful.
Okay. And so are you all involving people who will or can hire them on these jobs at these mixers, or who can provide the support to them? Or is it just everyone who's looking for an opportunity are coming together networking? Or are you bringing folks who can help give them an opportunity to these mixers as well?
Yes. Yeah, and one thing I just wanted to take it a little bit deeper and to the chair. You bring up an excellent point about the business development piece of this, and this has been a conversation that I've been having with many in the community, including Bill and I were just with Dr. Baston over at Tri-C. I've had this conversation at CSU and with other professionals in town with the banking and finance industry, is that these small filmmakers, in order to not be small filmmakers for the rest of their lives and chasing after a few dollars just to get a film made, have to understand that at their core they are a small business first and foremost. Their product is making a film. You may be the most creative person in the world, but if you don't have a business plan, if you haven't developed a strategic plan to operationalize that business plan, if you don't know how to make a pitch to an investor and to be able to say that I want to make film A here to get me to film B, C, here's my 3 to 5 year plan, and this is where you as an investor will start to see at least getting your money back, a return on that investment. Yeah. These are the things that I need. I think that's a very important piece that we want to do more of, and that's why, you know, it's so important, the support, you know, as a 501c3 and getting that kind of support that will allow us to grow capacity, to do more things, to be more prevalent in the community, but to really tackle that issue that is, to me, a business development piece for those small local filmmakers, is equipping them beyond just, you know, what we're currently doing in terms of providing the connectivity and even making suggestions of sources that they could potentially go to. But when they get in front of them, are they going to be successful? You know, do they know how to make that pitch and ensure that they get those resources that they need in order to grow their businesses and hopefully stay here and continue to hire local talent themselves?
Thank you for that. And my last 2 points before I go to Councilman Harsh. One, can you provide us a listing of how many black and brown folks who have been hired on movie sets here in the last, 5 years, 10 years maybe? I'm sure you all keep some sort of information that we can review. I know my other question was that you have to be 18, and not really. Extras are hard to track, but I'm sure you all can track, or you know who has worked on, who's been hired from Cleveland locally to work on these films that have been here over the last 5 to 10 years.
To the chair, anecdotally, I mean, I know a lot of the crew, and I know them personally. In the way we get our information, the way we track our metrics is through the applications for tax incentive and through the audits that happen after those productions come here, spend the money, hire the crew, and then are applying for the tax credit. Those audits, those applications don't distinguish between races. That would be the one way of tracking it, but right now the state program does not.
Do you have zip codes? The Film Commission doesn't keep track of any of that information?
Well, we're not the one that's employing the employees on the movie.
But and I don't mean to cut you out, but you work with these films though, right? You support them, so you all have no interaction or understanding of who's been hired and whether minorities and black and brown people are on these projects? Again,
I do, to the chair, I do know personally, anecdotally, like the people that are hired on a lot of the hires on the projects, but there is no mechanism in the program, and no, it's not. I don't get to see their payroll, internal processes, because it is a private company.
Okay. Well, does the state on there the audit information or the closeouts? Do they have? Is it by zip code? Is there some identifying?
There isn't on the audits.
Measures.
No.
Okay. Well, I want us to continue to talk about that to figure out how we can get that information, even what you would know and the people and what films have been a part of. I like for us to get that, so we can have that information. All right. All right, we're going to turn it over to Councilman Harsh to close us out.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't have any hard-hitting questions on this subject. I think it's a modest investment in the creative economy, and I think that it's well worth it. I did want to talk about Cleveland movies, but I think we're all kind of ready to move on with our day. I just want to point out that as the director was going through all the Marvel films, that the first Marvel film was when Howard the Duck crashed into Cleveland, which actually launched the Marvel movie media empire, which is worth like $500 million nowadays. And Marvel is reaching deep into their catalog for new movie ideas. So I think it's time that we refresh Howard and get him back into Cleveland. He could work down at Metro or something cool like that. So you guys will get on that? Yeah, okay, cool.
Right away.
You know, I was going to ask some of the questions I think you already addressed. Like, Jim Jarmusch is from Akron, and Jim wrote this great movie called Stranger Than Paradise, where he has two characters who are trying to run from some gambling debt in New York, and they come to Cleveland to hide out, and they go to visit the lake in January or February, and it's hilarious because if you don't remember what winters used to be like, you should watch Stranger Than Paradise. They go down to Edgewater to look at the lake. It's a very good scene. But I think about, you know, the successful people in the movie industry who are from Northeast Ohio, and that's kind of the whole list, like Jim Jarmusch. I know, no disrespect to anybody who's working in the film industry, but I mean, like, we think about, you know, those folks. There's a couple actors and actresses that are doing very well, but when I was younger, Robert Banks was trying to make movies in Cleveland, and Matthew T was making movies, and they all had to go to New York City to make it, right? They all had to, like, leave. Yeah, go, huh?
Through the chair to the councilman, Matthew T actually worked with me. He's still here.
I know he is. I know he is.
Right.
But with like 20 years ago, when they were trying to figure out how to be successful in the film industry, I think they left for a while. I think Robert left a while back, but are you still here? Oh, good. But there wasn't a lot of infrastructure to help these artists, you know, in the film industry, and I think that we're developing more of that. And there's more opportunities for acting. There's more opportunities for directing. I have friends that work in, you know, they're grips and they do all kinds of. It's more like gig economy, but it supports them. They're in the creative economy, and I'm glad to see that we're working to build this sector of the economy up, because there are people that find their calling in the film industry. And I think that's really good for us to keep supporting. So I don't really have any other questions. I just wanted to talk about Howard the Duck on TV.
All
Thanks.
right, Howard the Duck. Did I have no?
You didn't see that?
No.
The good one.
All right, see no further questions. Ordinance number 1199-2023 stands approved. Thank you all. Appreciate your time. All right.
Marvel's first movie character since like the 40s. They took about, 20 years off.
All right, ordinance number 1080-2023 by council members Casey, Bishop, Harrison, and Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance authorizing director of capital.
Can we do the one with the guest first?
Do we have a guest?
Yeah, and economic development's going to stay forward. It's 1087 for the street vacation, if you don't mind.
Okay. All right, Mr. Clerk. Scratch that, what I just read.
Sorry about that.
All right, ordinance number 1087-2023 by Councilmembers Starr, Bishop, Harrison, and Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance to vacate all of East 59th Street from the Central Avenue to Hawthorne Avenue and a portion of Hawthorne Court or East 59th Street to PPN 118-190-030. Director.
Mr. Chairman, so this street vacation relates to an economic development project, and when we were at the Municipal Services and Properties Committee, Councilman Starr asked that we give an update on the capital stack for the project. So I'll start by introducing everyone here today and then speaking about the street vacation, and then Director McNair or Robin Brown will speak to the capital stack. And then on my far left, we have a gentleman representing the developer. And JP, if you could say your last name again, I do apologize. I've forgotten. That's
quite all right. Good morning. Jim J.P. Potacek with Larson Architects representing. Yes, so blame my grandparents. I apologize. So.
Not a problem. Not a problem.
So, Councilman, I'll start out. This is the third step of a three-step street vacation process. And this is the ordinance that actually vacates the street. Originally, we were vacating all of East 59th Street between Central Avenue and Hawthorne Avenue. That's still being vacated. And originally, we were vacating more of Hawthorne Court, but we, through the a Board of Revision of Assessments process, there was a property owner that wished to have the alley remain a public street in front of their residence. So we've shortened the amount of Hawthorne Court that will be vacated. And and the developer and their team have been able to work around that shortened vacation. So this is for the IFS Properties LLC, an affiliate of International Food Solutions, Inc., that has requested the street vacation. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to the Department of Economic Development.
Well, before we go there, has there been any changes to the boundaries since our Municipal Service and Properties meeting that Councilman Starr was supportive of?
No change from that last committee. Nope.
Okay. I know that Councilman Starr is in support of the vacation as
Yes.
amended with this piece that's been presented.
That's correct. He's in full support.
What I would also ask, so that we, in the essence of our time, if you can just provide us in writing the response to the gap issue of the project financing. We'll let you go into a high-level overview, but if you can just send that in writing to us for the committee to review before our finance meeting, that would be helpful. That way we get a time to check in with Councilman Starr, who's out sick. He's been out sick this past week, and so we want to make sure that we confer with him as well. So we don't need a deep dive into that gap, but a high-level overview of the financial side will be enough for today before we go to finance. All right? Ms. Brown, for Director.
So I will say briefly, thank you, Mr. Chair. So this vacation is paving the way, I think, for a really important economic development project that we're incredibly supportive of. International Food Service Company produces Asian, Latin American, and Indian prepared foods to over 5,000 schools and institutions throughout the country. They're looking to make a roughly $60 million investment along East 55th Street, creating over 220 new jobs on this site for a poultry producing factory. These are really high quality jobs at over $20 an hour that are coming on in the neighborhood. I do believe with great conviction that food production is a place that we can really win in Cleveland. I think you're seeing more and more food production companies that we're supporting coming through here largely in this area. And with that, I will hand it over to Ms. Brown if there's anything I've missed, because she's an expert and I'm
Thank you.
learning.
Well, we heard a lot about this project for a long time. Yeah, same one.
To the committee, the project will be in two phases. Phase one will be the renovation of the former Goodwill building. It will cost approximately $56 million. And then phase two will be bringing on another production line, which will be about $29 million.
All right. Thank you. Again, this is not the first time we've seen this project. Like we had our guest here previously who discussed the project. ED has been on top of this. I know there's some concerns around potential gaps in the financing of the project, and so I know that's been worked through and discussed between administration, council, and the project developers to figure that out. The street vacation will help address some of those issues, and Councilman Starr is in support of this. And to the department and to the development team, you all are still taking Councilman Starr's lead on how you address the artistic involvement of the community's artistic involvement at the Goodwill site, correct?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, that is part of our discussions from the very inception of the project. So,
okay, got it. Thank you. Any questions from the committee? Councilman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to, about the vacation process itself, because there was a court vacated actually south of Denison many years ago that's turned into a huge headache because 3 people share it, nobody wants to pave it. But in this case, it looks like Hawthorne Court is like a little bit of a brick deal there. Is the plan to pull all of it up, just to lift the entire thing out and remove it, or will some of it be left there for future consideration?
Yes, through the chair, Councilman, the goal is portions of the building are going to, and parking lot are going to be constructed over that alleyway. The completed developed project will utilize some of that land, so the street will have to be removed, or that alley of Hawthorne Court will have to be removed in its entirety as part of the future development. We can't leave it in place.
So through the chair, from 59th to 63rd, all of that will be removed. It won't end up being somebody else's financial responsibility who doesn't want to pay for it someday. I'm just curious. I don't have any.
Through the chair, there's just one section that's going to remain, and it's basically sublot 17. There's 3 parcels. I do have a copy if it helps to see a visual of it.
Okay. And the owner of that parcel knows that will become their financial responsibility? Yeah. The part that's kept?
Actually, I don't want to speak out of turn. I thought that was still City of Cleveland property
Director?
for the roadway at that point, for the portion that is to remain.
Commissioner Director?
Yeah, so is the question the portion of Hawthorne Court as it arrives at East 61st Street?
It runs from 59 to 63. Or I guess, yeah, 61st is bifurcates it, but
Yes, so through the chairman and the councilman, so when we went through the Board of Revision of Assessment, there was a property owner that did not want the court vacated next to their property. So the amendment is pulling back the piece of Hawthorne Court that would be vacated up to the property line of parcel number 118-19-030.
okay. All right. I've run into two vacated streets that became headaches for people later on. I understand that most of this is being pulled up for new construction, so it's not an issue here. I was just curious. So that one piece is staying, okay.
So it looks like they're building down to
Past 61st.
this point here, and they're
Yeah.
stopping because this is the house right here. It's right where the X is, right? So the X right here.
Okay, and so they keep theirs.
Yep. So they're going to come all the way
Oh,
down,
I see,
and then
I see.
the city's going to remain the
And
city
that
portion
continues to
from
run over to 63rd?
Correct. Yep,
I see.
Down there.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Any further questions from the committee? All right, seeing no further questions, ordinance number 1087-2023 stands approved. Ordinance number 1080-2023 by Councilmembers Casey, Bishop, Harrison, and Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Capital Projects to enter into one or more agreements with the City of Lakewood regarding the public improvement of resurfacing Lakewood Heights Boulevard to, among other things, I've never seen that in an ordinance.
I didn't draft it.
Allow Lakewood to make the public improvements in the city of Cleveland on Lakewood Heights Boulevard between Joslyn Road to Berea Road, and to cause payment of the city of Lakewood for the city's portion of the improvement, among other things. Okay. Director?
Mr. Chairman, I didn't draft the ordinance, so
Okay.
I'm not sure. But but excuse me, I can say that Lakewood Heights Boulevard has an interesting geography. The city lines of Lakewood and Cleveland kind of jog through the street in an interesting way. And this is an ordinance that allows us to give rights to Lakewood to reconstruct Lakewood Heights Boulevard. The city's contribution is $500,000. Lakewood's is also $500,000 for $1 million total. It's basically concrete slab replacements and in certain areas that are bad. So the geography, as I mentioned, is a little bit unusual. The hook part, as you get to Berea Road, is City of Cleveland. The portion that's over the railroad tracks is Lakewood, and then the straightaway is split between Cleveland and Lakewood, but not at the center line. So it just kind of jogs through there. So we're seeking consent to allow Lakewood to move forward with the project. And the design is happening January of 2024, with construction intended in May through October of 2024. This is in Councilman Casey's ward, and he's in support of moving forward.
Thank you, Director. And again, to the committee, this has been heard and passed by Municipal Service and Properties. One question before we go to Councilman McCormack. Any project cost overages, who's responsible for that?
Rick, do you know the answer to that?
To the chair, the cost of the project will be determined by who has how much square footage. There'll be an agreement if there's an overage on the Cleveland side, we'll have to pick that up. If it's on the Lakewood side, they pick it up.
Okay. In this ordinance, I don't see a dollar amount in the ordinance. Why is that? Mr. Law Director? I don't see a dollar amount in the ordinance. It's in the summary, but it's not in the ordinance. Is there a reason for that?
I don't think so, because it binds us to the number.
Yeah. So
No certification of funds required at this time.
Okay.
This is entering into, giving the authority to enter into the agreement.
And Mr. Chairman, I think when we have consent legislation, which is when another entity is building our streets. So it could be Cuyahoga County, it could be another city. There is always an agreement that somebody's responsible for the overage, and that might be the reason. If it was set at 500,000, then we would have to come back to council to seek additional dollars in order for them to finish the project.
Right.
I'm guessing.
Yeah, I'm just concerned if we do this project and we're over $200,000 is on our side, that we can just, expend $200,000. So we want to address it now. Let's get some clarity between now and finance to figure out the overage issue and whether or not we need to add the up to amount in the ordinance and require administration to come back to us for approval. All right?
Yes, sir.
Councilman McCormack?
Mr. Chairman, my apologies. I thought this was a different road, but if I can have 20 seconds.
Go ahead.
Is this Rocky River Boulevard? Is there a plan for Rocky River? I thought this was along that road. How we have to fix it every year, the concrete?
Yeah, to the chair, to the council member, we've been working on Rocky River. I think
Okay.
we've now had twice attacked it through the requirements contract.
Okay.
I'd have to go see if we have plans for additional work, but we
Okay.
have made 2 shots at
It just seems like every year it's closed down and we're repairing it every year.
We started late last year.
Okay.
So we stopped for the winter, and then we picked up again.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, Councilman. Seeing no further questions, ordinance number 1080-2023 stands approved. All right. Ordinance number 1081-2023 by Councilmembers Gray, Bishop, Harrison, and Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance authorizing Director of Capital Projects to enter into an agreement or agreements with the Cuyahoga Metropolitan Housing Authority regarding the public improvement, construction, infrastructure improvements as a part of the Woodhill Choice Estates project to, among other things, here we go again, allow CMHA to make the public improvements to Woodhill Choice Estates, to apply for and accept any gifts or grants for the purpose from any public or private entity, authorizing any relative agreements, and to cause payments to CMHA for the city's portion of the improvement. Again, this was heard and passed by Municipal Service and Properties Director.
Mr. Chairman, this project, or the city's involvement in this project goes back to 2019 when we passed an ordinance to authorize the Director of Community Development to apply to the Department of Housing and Urban Development as a co-applicant and a neighborhood implementation entity for what was called the Choice Neighborhood Implementation Grant. And we were successful as a community in receiving this grant. The lead applicant was Cuyahoga Metropolitan Housing Authority. And as the co-applicant and as the neighborhood implementation entity, our obligations included providing $15.5 million of city capital funds to break up the Woodhill Estates superblocks and to provide streetscape amenities to Woodhill and Woodland, the main thoroughfares connecting the estates to the broader neighborhood. So this $15.5 million has been allocated over several years of bond funding.
Right.
About 2/3 has already been allocated. And the roadway work includes new asphalt over concrete roadways for Morris Black Road, which is between Woodland and Mount Carmel Road, and then 5 new streets that are currently unnamed that would be between Morris Black Road and East 100th Street. And all that would serve the new estates that are being built.
Long overdue.
Yes.
I knew plenty of people who lived in Morris Black for years there. They call them something else now, right? Woodhill? No, that's Morris Black, brother. That's it has been. Any questions from the committee? Seeing no further questions, ordinance 1081-2023 stands approved. All right. Ordinance 1085-2023 by Councilmembers Casey, Slide, Bishop, Harrison, and Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance giving consent of the City of Cleveland to the County of Cuyahoga for the resurfacing of West 140th Street from Puritas Avenue to Lakewood Heights Boulevard, authorizing Director of Capital Projects to enter into agreements to apply for and accept any allocation of the county motor vehicle license tax funds to apply for and accept any gifts or grants from any public or private entity, and to cause payment to the county for the city's share of the improvement. Director.
Mr. Chairman, so this is another consent legislation. This time it would be Cuyahoga County building roads in the city of Cleveland. It would be for an improvement to West 140th Street from Puritas Avenue to the south up to Lakewood Heights Boulevard to the north. And our local share that would be paid to Cuyahoga County is estimated at $1 million. It's about a $7.5 million total project, and it's approximately 2.5 miles in length. And the design is expected to go in April of 2025. So this is a few years out. Bid and award in April to June of 2026, with construction in July of 2026 to November of 2027. This hits both Councilman Casey and Councilmember Slife's wards. And our obligation for this is 60% of the design cost and 50% of the eligible construction costs.
Thank you. And again, to the committee, this has been heard and approved by Municipal Services. So the same question goes into this as the other in terms of the overages, who's responsible, and all of that. I would assume that the county would be. I don't know. So we'll figure that out because we do share a portion of the cost for these 60-40, 50-50. They don't do 50-50 anymore, do they?
It depends on the project.
Okay. They were trying to get away to 50-50 when I was leaving county council and coming to city council. Any questions from the committee? Seeing no questions from the committee, ordinance number 1085-2023 stands approved. Director, can we get before we go to the next piece, work with Joe Tytron. I'm sure you have like some sort of outlay of potential county resurfacing projects that you are talking to the county about, that you want to do across the city. If you can get us some sort of outlay of proposed projects that you'll be trying to work with the county to complete, or any other entity that we partner with to do road repairs. All right? Ordinance number 1089-2023 by Councilmembers of Cormac, Bishop, Harrison, and Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance giving consent of the City of Cleveland to the Director of Transportation of the State of Ohio to resurface Quigley Road and West 3rd Street in the City of Cleveland, authorizing agreements and causing payments to the state for the city's share of the improvement. Director.
Mr. Chairman, this is for Quigley Road. This is on NOACA's tip, and we are seeking authorization to grant consent to ODOT to construct this road for us. It would be Quigley Road from Clark Avenue to West 3rd Street, and then West 3rd Street from Quigley to Stones Levee. The improvement, this area is about 1.84 miles. The improvement includes asphalt milling, pavement-based repairs, asphalt resurfacing, and installation of ADA-compliant ramps. Total estimated cost is just over $3.2 million. And so we would be investing about $647,000 of road and bridge bonds, and the rest would be coming through NOACA from federal funds. We're already in design on this project. We would bid an award, hopefully bid it at the end of this year and award in the springtime, with construction anticipated next year between April and September.
Thank you. This has been heard and passed by Municipal Services and Properties. Councilman McCormack.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I support this ordinance.
Thank you. Ordinance number 1089-2023 stands approved. All right. Last one, ordinance number 1192-2023 by Councilmembers Harrison and Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance authorizing, absolutely no. This one, we're not hearing today. Actually, this is ordinance number 1192 will be relieved to the Finance Committee. All right.
Thank you.
I see no one here from Building and Housing. They had ordinance number 1022 on the list regarding the city's ability to address nuisance properties. I haven't seen anyone from Building and Housing here all day, actually. All right, no one here from Building and Housing. Ordinance number 1022 will not be heard. We will hold this until further notice. All right. All right, DPS committee is adjourned. Thank you all. Yes, sir.